Hey, so I just want to do a video about the experience I had today, which was incredible. It was with Bufo Alvarius, Costa Rica, and we essentially did a Bufo ceremony, which is the 5-MeO-DMT, and having done ayahuasca, I was kind of like, I guess, prepared in a way because I'd experienced DMT, but this is completely different. So essentially, I'm trying to tell this while it's still super fresh in my head. So I get to the ceremony, and it's this, beautiful house. And the first person that goes is this girl who had never done it before, and she was relatively young. And they give it to her, and she smokes, and you just see her whole body kind of tightens up, and you can tell there's a little bit of a struggle, and it's like, oh my gosh, it looks like she's almost fighting, and they're with her, they're helping her, they're holding the space for her, and then once she gets through it, you just see pure bliss, and it's so beautiful, and I almost wanted to cry because it was like that beautiful. So anyway, seeing that, I was like, okay, this is amazing. All these people are here supporting her, sending her love as she's going through this. And then she comes out with this gorgeous experience. And then, other people do it. And then finally it's my turn to go. And at this point I had seen quite a few people do it. So I'm like, I kind of have it built up in my head how it's going to be. You don't really know how it's going to be though until you do it. So I sit down. They tell me to take off my glasses. And I wanted to have them on, I remember, but they tell me to take them off, and I'm trying to process everything really quick and be like, oh, I'm trying to set an intention, be like, I want to go and see the light, and the spirit, my guardian angels, my dog, and I'm hoping to go to the spirit realm, right? So this is what's kind of, I'm thinking that I want, but this whole thing is going so fast that I don't really have the time to process what I want out of it. In that moment, I'm nervous. I'm like, this is about to happen. And once it happens, it's not like ayahuasca where you have time to drink it and then sit on it before it affects you. I mean, this is immediate. So I'm a little bit anxious, and they're like, here, they give it to me, and I start inhaling. I inhale as deep as I can, and then and for a minute, I'm not really feeling it yet, so as I'm inhaling, I'm like, okay, because I thought it would be legit a millisecond, but it wasn't a millisecond, so I'm still inhaling, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, I think I just cough, and I wasn't able to hold it for that long, and I'm gone. I don't know, how much time passed, but all of a sudden, I feel I'm falling back or falling into a spiral, a loop of these crazy visions. I have no idea, just crazy colors and patterns, just in a loop, I guess. And so I'm like, fuck. And the guy is telling me to let go. And I'm like, fuck, okay, I have to let go. But it's happening so fast, you don't have that much time to let go. I'm like, okay, I have to let go. And I'm thinking I'm going to have an ego death. I didn't end up having the ego death, but there was still resistance. Even though I wasn't going to have an ego death, you still need to work through resistance, even if you don't have one. So I'm kind of falling into this, I don't know, abyss. I don't know what it was, but falling in, and I guess my body, I have no idea what my body was doing. I couldn't feel it at all. I was gone, and I'm like, wow, this is it, and it's kind of, it's freaky for a minute, because you're like, oh, well, this is I can't believe this is the experience, because you don't really know what it's going to be like till you're there. But then I process that it's happening, and I'm letting go, and I'm trying to be I got to think about these things that I want or whatever. But really, honestly, with Bufo, it's so fast that I would recommend that you don't really set any intention other than to just surrender and see the light. Because I was trying to say, let me think about my dead dog, let me think about this, that, and the other. But really, I ended up being able to think about those things, but it was it would have, it's going to take you where it's going to take you. It's going to take you to the light, essentially. I mean, it's really incredible. So you don't really need to take the time to think about it too much. You just need to surrender to it, I guess. So then suddenly, I don't know, I guess he's a shaman. He started working on me. I'm not sure exactly what was going on, but he was saying let go, and like, get it out, whatever it is. So then he's like pushing on my stomach. I feel like I'm gonna throw up, and he's like, just do it, let it go, get it out. So I get on my hands and knees, and I start like kind of gagging like I'm gonna throw up, but I don't actually throw up. He's just like, get it out. Also, you're like empty stomach, so I think it'd be like pretty impossible to throw up, but I mean, I'm sure some people do. So I didn't throw up, but I'm like gagging, I'm kind of coughing, get it out, then I lie back down. And then, well, when that happens, I'm like, oh, okay, like, that was the experience. I fell through this loop, and then I'm gagging, and then I'm just going to lie down, and it's going to go away. So I thought it was over, but then I lied down, and it was just like, I guess I had fallen through the loop at that point, and I was just in the light. Like, it was like, just this beautiful place, completely, like, it was wonderful. And, like, you're there, I don't know how to, it's really hard to explain, but you're in this really light, beautiful place. But, and this, not all Bufo groups do this, but he was essentially like, he'll like press points on you that are things you need to let go, I guess. So he pressed this point like in my abdomen, and it hurt so fucking bad. And he's like, whatever it is, let it go, let it go. And I'm like, and I knew what it was, and I could just feel it, and it was so painful, and I'm trying to let it go, Then he hits another point, and it wasn't as painful, but it was like I still had to let it go. And then I'm having like all these realizations, and he's like, and forgive. Oh, he was saying forgive. That was a big thing, and forgiving had to do with those pains that I was having when he was pressing. And so one of the forgiveness was like for my father not being present because he passed when I was young. And it was like, that was something I never really thought about, but it kind of came to me like, okay, well, I forgive. And then with everything else, the other pains, it was like, it was just like, forgiveness didn't even seem like a problem at that moment. It just happens. You forgive. Because all there is love. And I know that sounds so hippie, but you really see it. You really see that, like, that's like, all this bullshit crap, sadness, anxiety, resentment, all that shit is like here on earth, or in the physical realm, let me say. So it's all this, and that's all heavy. And I mean, we're here physically heavy, and when you're up there, kind of like when I had my ego death on ayahuasca, when you're up there, you see what's real, and it's just, this universal connection is just love. It's just light. And when I say light, I mean it is like, I guess it could be light like what you see light, but it's light as in there's no weight. It's weightless. And it's beautiful. And then, so I'm in it, and then I end up kind of, it wears off really quickly, and then I think that I'm kind of back, and then I'm just lying there on the ground with like my face in the grass. I'm like touching it, and I start kind of, like, I felt like I was crying, but I was actually laughing. I was like laughing, crying, and it was just like, I had this feeling, it's just love. That's all there is love. And it was like, so I guess outside of this weird world we live in, outside of the lives that we have to live for whatever reason, I don't know what reason it is that we have to live these lives. Outside of that, once we die, it's just love. That's all there is. And I felt the love of like, one thing is, when I was in the light, before I kind of came back, when I was just in the light, like, I felt the love of, like, my dogs that had passed, my father, but also my mom and my other dog that was still alive. Like, that love was equally present to the love of those who have passed, if that makes sense. So what that showed me is that when someone dies, they're still there. Like, I don't know, like, that love is still there. It's always there. It's just as present as the love of the people who are still alive. And, like, that was just so beautiful. And then another thing is, I haven't seen my mom for three months because I've been studying abroad in Costa Rica, but I could just feel her love, and I could feel my other dog's love, who's, in the States with her. And I haven't seen them for 3 months, but because I could feel that, it was like, I don't miss them, because their love is with me all the time. I mean, of course I miss them, like seeing them in person and all that stuff. And also another thing is I'm about to see them, so that makes saying this a lot easier. But like, that love and that connection is there all the time. Even if it's not physically there, it is always there. So I guess that was kind of like the whole Bufo experience. It's definitely not as profound as doing ayahuasca, because you don't have all that time to process and like work through so much. But it's so beautiful and so profound. It just shows you the light, I guess, So, sorry, my throat was dry. I had to get a sip of some juice, but essentially, yeah, it just shows you the light. And like, that sounds so, like, it doesn't even sound that deep, I guess, to say that. Like, anyone could just say that. But once you've done something like this and experienced it, like, you feel it, and it makes everything here feel so insignificant. There was and then, well, after we smoked, I think it's called Changa, which is another, it has DMT in it, but it's much lighter. So I smoke it. We're sitting on a yoga mat, I lie back, and then I just kind of see like a hologram, or I don't know, of like kind of like a sacred Buddha shrine, like design with all these. It was really beautiful, but it wasn't super apparent. It was just kind of barely there. And so, it's a very light trip. I'm sitting there and having these very minor hallucinations and kind of processing what had just happened with my DMT, or with the Bufo experience. And then, I'm looking at the sky, and I'm just like, I'm feeling, I think the realization kind of was that what has wronged me here on earth has not affected my spirit. My spirit is fine. Like, what's out there, there's no harm. Once I get there, this pain is gone. So the best thing I can do while living here is to just let go of that pain as much as I can, so I can live in this world as lightly as possible. So anyway, that was my really incredible experience today, and honestly, I feel so blessed that I've been able to have these experiences, because I know not everyone has the ability to do these things. But if you are able to, and obviously want to, I would say do the ayahuasca and do the Bufo, because they're just incredible. I'm forever changed. I've made more strides in the last month since I did my ayahuasca than I had, I think, in the last 2 years. And doing this Bufo was the great kind of finishing of everything. And not really finishing, because, the healing continues through. You have to constantly heal, or, you're just going to go back to all your problems before. But this was a great way to kind of close off my month of integration since ayahuasca, was to do this Bufo and have this beautiful experience. And the next week my mom comes and I go back to the States. So anyway, that's it. I wanted to share the experience while it was fresh. Bye!